Good morning. My name is Patricia DeVine. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a member of the Worship and Music Committee, and I will be your worship associate this morning. If you are visiting today, we welcome you. If you have any questions, please ask one of the greeters. And because our services vary from week to week, we suggest you might want to visit us again to experience a different kind of service. Also, please sign the guest book, which is in the foyer, so you may receive our weekly newsletter. Today we acknowledge that we are located in a place that once was the Wampanoag village of Pawtuxet. We strive to follow their example and be faithful stewards of this sacred land. The theme for today's service is Cinco de Mayo, and will be presented by our minister, Reverend Arthur Lavoie. Deb Keller, Director of Spiritual Development, will lead A Time for All Ages. And our live music, we're thrilled to have her back, our former music director, Sandy Hammond. Lydia Robertson is providing technical support. She is filming our service this morning, and it will be broadcast in its entirety on Zoom. Once recorded, the candle sections will be edited out so that we can speak candidly and privately during the service. This service, as are all of our services, will be posted on our Facebook page and on YouTube. We also share our services on local public access television. Following the service, we offer our coffee hour, and all are invited to join us for fellowship and refreshments. If you're interested in helping, please talk to Julia Thomas after the service. We always need help. Wherever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, let us walk together this hour.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Arthur Lavoie. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm also very happy to welcome all of you here this morning. And I want to extend a special welcome to those who are watching online, whether live on Zoom or on local public access television station where we send the link to our services. We are very happy to be here, and we hope that folks who are watching online, if you want to connect with us at all, our website is firstparishplymouth.org, and you can find information there about the church, about Unitarian Universalism, and also contact information if you'd like to get hold of me or someone, have questions for someone else. So thank you all for being here, and our Patricia will lead is going to be a responsive reading, number 438 in your gray hymnals. So if you want to pull that out.
It's in the section right after the lyrics with the music. It's in the section called Opening Lines. If you're having trouble finding it, which I had trouble with. And you'll notice that the typeface is straight, and then there's italics. I'll read the straight type, and I hope you will join by reading the italics. From the east comes the sun, bringing a new and unspoiled day.
It has already circled the earth and looked upon distant lands and faraway peoples.
It has passed over mountain ranges and the waters of the seven seas.
It has shone upon laborers in the fields, into the windows of homes, and
It has beheld proud cities with gleaming towers.
And also the house of the poor.
It has been witness to both good and evil, the works of honest men and women, and the conspiracy of knaves.
It has seen marching armies, bombed blasted villages, and the destruction and wasted at noonday.
Now, unsullied from its timeless journey, it comes to us, messenger of the morning.
Harbinger of a new day.
Our opening hymn this morning, let me try to do this all once. Number 134, while you have your hymnals out, Our World is One World. Please rise in body and spirit. Standing. Join me in the words of chalice lighting. Love
is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
Please be seated.
Are you awake? Kind of a special day tomorrow.
Today.
Today's the 5th?
Today's the
It's even more special now. See, it gets crazy in the spring with me.
I don't know. Me too.
So, who can tell me why it's a special day today?
Because it's Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo, very good. Now the question is, what's that mean? Remember? Of Yes, the 5th of May. But why do we say it in Spanish?
Because it's a Mexican holiday.
Yeah, but you know what I learned? It's celebrated more in the US than it is in Mexico. I know, crazy, huh? It is. It is a Mexican holiday that Mexican Americans celebrate more than Mexicans. Where do you think the very biggest Cinco de Mayo celebration is?
Los Angeles.
Yes, very good, Los Angeles. Guess where the next couple of biggest ones are?
New York.
Texas. That's a good one. Houston. Houston, yeah.
New York City?
Chicago,
Mid-South.
Seattle,
Yeah.
Texas. And then there's this little town, Pueblo, Mexico, that has 2,000 people in it.
Oh my gosh.
That's the biggest place in Mexico that celebrates it. Now, we kind of have a little extra help from somebody who knows Mexico very well. So you might be able to get some of these answers. What's it celebrating?
About a victory, a military victory.
Yes.
Against the French.
And the Mexicans were the underdogs. 2,000 Mexicans fought against 6,000 French and won. How's that for a reason to celebrate? Pretty amazing. Now, one of the things that happens is a lot of people know about Cinco de Mayo and, ooh, we get to have a party, but don't know the story or the history or the customs or the culture. And so we have a job to do. We have to learn about it and understand it if we want to be part of this celebration. It's really important. And, you know, have some big words we use, like cultural misappropriation, which means grab something and use it because you want to without understanding it. And when we were having a discussion about this cultural misappropriation, Emily, our music director, had a teacher who taught her the most wonderful thing when we were saying, how do we know when it's okay to celebrate something? Her teacher told her, first of all, you gotta learn about it. Secondly, are you willing to have people of that culture to your dinner table? If you're willing to bring them into your home and learn, more parties to ya. But what a great way to think about things. Cinco de Mayo, celebration. Now we know for what. And I know I'd open my door and have people come to my table who understand the history of it and celebrate it. So let's get our doors open and our tables ready and celebrate. And now I'm going to take the kids for some more learning and discovery.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Can you hear me?
Let's move that a little closer, so you don't have to lean over.
No,
I didn't
just,
I did.
just lean in. Lydia, I don't know how, so let's just, yeah.
Okay. The reading this morning is by Sandra Cisneros in the foreword to The Future of Mr. I'm very sorry that I will not be pronouncing Spanish words correctly, but I'm trying.
The Future is Mestizo,
Thank
is the
you.
book.
Thank you.
By Virgilio Elizondo.
On a recent flight to Chicago, breakfast arrived and I was both satisfied and amused to peel my foil packet and find on my tray scrambled eggs on a flour tortilla, a breakfast burrito. The entire plane, businessmen and businesswomen, mothers with kids, grandparents and students, flight attendants and first class, was lifting breakfast burritos to their mouths and eating the food of my childhood, the food of my kitchen, la comida de los pobres, at 30,000 feet above the earth. I never thought I would witness such an absurd and wonderful event like this in my life. And on an airline named American, no less. But a lifetime, I have learned, is full of astonishments. The panza, perhaps, is that the country where we most often cross borders, reluctantly at first, with great trepidation and fear, sometimes accompanied by a coyote, but after the foreign becomes familiar, without a second thought, we become cross-cultural globetrotters. In San Antonio, Texas, you only have to look at the Chinese Mexican restaurants around town. Guacamole has to be my favorite name. Or how about the lovely meztuzaya of tacos, like fried wieners and scrambled eggs, or my grandfather's beloved peanut butter on a flour tortilla. I have suspected for a long time now that our job as Chicanos, as Mexico-Americanos, as amphibians, as citizens with 1 foot over there and 1 foot over here, is to be the bridge of unity, to be the translator in this new age. El sexto sol, this age of chaos in which we are living when one world ends and a new one begins.
So I am singing a slightly abbreviated version of this, which I'm 90% sure is the one Joan Baez does. And there is an interactive part for all of you. So give me just a minute here. So 2 people already have instruments, and Karen has 2 tambourines to hand out to whoever would like one. So don't be shy. It's not a quiz. Oh my goodness. That's yours. Oh, someone back here wants one. I mean, yeah. I promise I tuned this. There's only a few. So, okay, but there is something for all of you to do. So, hold on, I'll bring this down. Okay, so when I do this, hey-o, your turn. Hey-o. Again, hey-o. Or you can do it an octave up if you want to show off. You can do this. Let me hear that again. Okay? Excellent. Yeah, so the tambourines can be on one or whatever rhythm you're feeling.
De colores se gustan los campos en la primavera. De colores son los paraísos que vienen de afuera. muchos colores me gustan a mí. Hey, oh. Hey, oh. Canta el gallo con el kiri, 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 kiri. La gallina con el cara, 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 cara. Los polluelos con el pío, 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 pío. Y por eso las grandes amoras de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amoras de muchos colores me gustan a mí.
Where should I go for dinner tonight? Within walking distance of here, there are a few pub-like American places. There's Korean, Chinese, and a couple of Thai restaurants. Great seafood places down by the waterfront, along with a Caribbean-inspired restaurant, an Italian restaurant, a Greek restaurant, along with a new Mediterranean place on Water Street that I haven't even tried yet. When I lived in Dorchester, I could add several Vietnamese restaurants, an Indian restaurant, and a Cape Verdean place that served great Portuguese-inspired food, since the Cape Verdean islands off the coast of Africa were colonized by Portugal. And that's just the places within walking distance of where I live here or where I lived there. How times have changed. We don't think it's at all unusual to have these varied multicultural food choices. When I was a kid, it's a long time ago, the places we'd go out to eat were Friendly's or Abdow's Big Boy, at least until the first McDonald's opened up in our area. And since many in my family are lactose intolerant, we weren't much into pizza. Wherever we live, our choices of food have grown exponentially in the last 50 years. And I wonder how often we really think about the international food choices we have, or the people and cultures that are reflected in those options. food is often the entry point to any knowledge or experience we have about another culture or another country. When I was studying for the ministry, I did my parish internship at our church in Orlando, Florida. My internship committee and I would often have our meetings over a meal. Since at that time, I don't know what it's like today, but it was relatively cheap for Florida residents to have an annual pass to the Disney theme parks, we would often joke around and say to each other, "What country would you like to eat in tonight?" And then we'd drive over to Epcot and visit another country for dinner. It's great fun. It's nourishing. And if you like food variety like I do, it's wonderful to have these multiple food choices at my fingertips. But if food is the only thing we know about another country, then we are far from any meaningful engagement with people and cultures that are different from us. That kind of diversity, that kind of pluralism, which is our theme for this month, is challenging. Mike Cooper writes, "It's a constant willingness to self-challenge and to look at where we might be wrong or limited. It requires a capacity to detach ourselves from agendas, beliefs, sometimes commitments, and to recognize that there may be other ways." Now, when I had the idea to write a sermon about Cinco de Mayo, since today is May 5th, I knew that Cinco de Mayo celebrated a Mexican military victory. So I assumed it was a holiday that was very important to the Mexican community. But Cinco de Mayo is, as we've learned, more popular here in the United States and in some Central American countries as well than it is in Mexico. Who knew? We don't take the time to know these things. We like easy answers to complex questions. We often bundle Spanish-speaking cultures together, but in reality, those different countries have different experiences. And it's important for us to have a more nuanced approach, to leave our assumptions, our projections at the door, and learn about cultures and people for who they are. Another thing that limits our ability to deal honestly with the diverse identities and cultures in our midst is that we have forgotten much of our own history or have whitewashed it, blending some things together and ignoring others that don't fit with the dominant narrative in our white American culture. I attended a conference in New York some years ago on building strong and more vibrant, diverse, and pluralistic faith communities. One of our speakers was the Reverend Dr. Miguel de la Torre, a theologian and ethicist from the Iliff School of Theology in Colorado. He said that part of the power of privilege in this country is that we forget our own stories of origin. We become assimilated into American culture and we don't look back. We don't remember the stories of how we or our families came to be here. we might be shocked and surprised by what we learn from our own stories. About 12 or 15 years ago, when I was the minister in Dorchester, I was asked to do a wedding of sorts for a young couple who had started attending the church. The bride-to-be, we'll call her Susan, was a very light-skinned blonde woman of Irish ancestry. Her fiancé, we'll call him Miguel, was born in South America and was brought here as a young child when his parents brought him and his sister across the southern border. He was undocumented. They had met and fallen in love while both of them were working on immigration issues in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, Miguel was arrested and fitted with an ankle bracelet and would soon be deported to a place he had almost no memory of. So they were married very quickly in Washington so that Miguel would not be deported. Now they were both living in the Boston area and wanted a meaningful ceremony and a celebration that they could invite family and friends to. That's what they asked me to officiate. It was an amazing gathering and celebration, bringing together many diverse people from their circle of family and friends. Now, after they had gotten married quickly, Susan traveled back to her central Massachusetts family home. She gathered her extended family together to tell them what had happened. They already knew that she had fallen in love with a man from South America, but they didn't know that Miguel was undocumented. Susan was concerned how her family would react to this news. In the awkward silence that followed after she told them the story, her grandfather was the first to speak. "That's just how it was with my mother," he said. "She didn't have papers when she came from Ireland, and we were always afraid that she would be arrested and sent back." They were all shocked and stunned. No one in the family had ever heard this before. This news shook many of them up and challenged their perceptions about people who were undocumented. Her grandfather and his siblings were happy to be assimilated into American culture, were happy not to share this frightening and painful story. They wanted to put the whole thing behind them. How much do we know about our own stories of origin? How much do we know about what our families did to get here and what they may have had to do to survive once they did arrive? He was my grandmother's brother. We called him Tio Armin, Tio being the Portuguese word for uncle. For many years, he lived with my grandparents and helped raise my mother and her siblings. When his and my grandmother's other brother, Antonio, died in an industrial accident in Springfield, Armin moved in with his brother's widow to help support her so that she wouldn't lose her home. He never married or had a family of his own. He worked as a handyman and carpenter, also on some local road construction projects. And he was one of the sweetest people I've ever known. It wasn't until several years after his death that I learned that he had smuggled himself aboard a freighter when he came from Portugal. He was undocumented. He was beloved by my mother and her siblings. Once, after I learned this story and my parents were railing about the illegals crossing the southern border, I decided to push their buttons a bit. I said, well, isn't that what T.U. Armin was? An illegal alien. My mother was shocked and appalled. T.U. Armin was nothing like the people coming over the border. He was such a good man. What makes you think, I said, that the people crossing the border are not good people? Most of them are coming for the same reasons that he did, to be with family, to have better economic opportunities, or to escape violence. Isn't it the same no matter which border we cross? How many of us have stories like this one that we don't even know about? How many of us wouldn't even be here if not for some border crossing in our past that might not be legal today? My father's French-Canadian ancestors were moving back and forth across the border between Canada and the United States for generations, when that border was much more porous. Under current restrictions, I might not be here because my parents would never have met. Since we're talking today about a holiday that originated in Mexico, let's return there for our final story. And this one comes from former UUA President Peter Morales. Many years ago, our slave-based economy, with huge plantations growing commodities for export, expanded westward across the South, but then hit a border. What's now southeast Texas is prime land for growing cotton. The trouble was that it was part of Mexico. The border was porous, though, and undocumented Anglos poured across, bringing their slaves. They encountered another problem. Slavery was illegal in Mexico. The Anglo immigrants soon fomented a rebellion aimed at legalizing slavery. The fact that the white Texan revolt against Mexico was founded on the desire to extend black slavery has somehow never filtered down to what is taught in our schools. After winning their quick little war of independence, Texas joined the Union as a slave state. Sadly, Peter Morales continues. James Bowie, Davy Crockett, and Sam Houston were not the freedom-loving heroes that we have been led to believe. Where am I going for dinner tonight? I'm not yet sure. But I may have to do some border crossing to get there. Hopefully, I'll also try to learn more about the cultures and the people whose country I visit on my culinary rounds. I invite us all to do the same. It's the only way to truly build a more pluralistic and diverse society. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing hymn, 318, right? No, 159. Same tune, different words. Right, okay, number 159 is our closing hymn. This is my song. Please rise in body or in spirit and join us. As you all know from your presence here, the kind of community that we have in this congregation, the strength of the bond that brings us together, needs to be supported by your time, your talent, and your treasure. And now we will gratefully receive your financial offerings for the ministry and work of First Parish in Plymouth. This is a wonderful time in our time together on Sundays where we share with each other the joys and sorrows, the milestones that have touched our lives and our hearts since the last time we met. And I have two candles to start with, one of sorrow and one of joy. I mentioned this last week. Yesterday I did a memorial service, a celebration of life for a local trans woman who had died by suicide. Working with family and friends this week has been a real blessing for me, but also emotionally draining. There were over 100 people who attended the service. We borrowed the church in Kingston and the Beale House there for the service and reception. It was healing for a family to come together, especially some who've been estranged, and friends came from Maine and New Hampshire who had known Faye. And so for Faye Barbone and her family and friends who are grieving her loss and struggling doubly because they all wish there was something that they could have done. Now, for a candle of joy. Karen, this is for you. Karen spends most, how many months were you gone? Six months in Mexico. Had been living in Plymouth, now lives in Middleborough, so we don't get to see her that often, but you've just returned this week from Mexico and needed to reconnect with this community, and so we're also thrilled that you're here. For Karen and all of your border crossings over the years, and all that you have taught so many of us. If other people have candles they would like to share, please come forward. Travels from our reading, we understand and see so much of what the sun has encountered. Crossing borders, shining lights on wars and hovels and cities and villages and all the people and everything we do and everything we are. Yet the sun is without judgment. It's we human beings that bring judgment, that bring small-minded thinking to our life and our world. May we be more like the sun as we travel, wanting to illumine for ourselves what's going on, not taking things for granted, and doing so without judgment. Let us pause for a moment of our own prayer and reflection. You can remain seated and join in singing number 123, Spirit of Life, our song of inspiration. The restaurant that Senator Cisneros mentions in the reading, Guacamole, reminded me of Happy Donut. Now, if you've ever been to the San Francisco Bay Area, I don't know if they're anywhere else in California, but they're all over the Bay Area. Happy Donuts. Now, a Happy Donut restaurant is both a donut shop and a Chinese restaurant buffet. It's a great business model. People come in, they're open like 24 hours. People come in the morning for donuts. They come in for lunch or dinner for the Chinese buffet, and then the late night crowd after partying or going to clubs has their choice. They can come in and get donuts, they can come in and get food. It is, it is one of those things that highlights the book that the reading is from. The future is mestizo. The future, mestizo means everything intermingled, interwoven, intermarried. That everything, our world is becoming so much more joined and pluralistic than it's ever been before, and that's to be celebrated. That's to be honored. Even the most, speaking of food choices, the most American restaurants are using flavors from other countries and cultures to enhance their food choices. It's all coming together like a good Happy Donut.